So would you like to show the designs kit that you've been working on for us? Maybe you can share screen, or do you want us to from the drive?
Yep, no problem. So designs is probably a bit of a strong word at the moment, considering I have been focusing a lot on wireframes, and I hope for good reason.
Yeah.
I think that after the call last week, can you all see my screen? I'm just sharing the Google Shared doc at the, the Google Shared Drive at the moment. So after the last call, I think the consensus was we really need to be pressing on with wireframes. So getting some clarity around what it is we're actually building, and also then being able to cross-reference those to the user stories. And I think importantly that broadens out the roles, because if we just focus on design right now, it doesn't, as in like real granular article design, copywriting, imagery, article design, that type of thing, then I think obviously it's just slowing down other contributors that can be diving in on build and planning. I mean, there's still quite a bit of planning, and obviously, and this is something that I recall Christina making a big point of previously, what we're actually building has to be at the core of what we actually design. So in terms of what I've been up to, so both myself and Jody have been doing some work on selecting a font for the working magazine title, Umami. So it was agreed last week that we would go with something a bit more fun for now in terms of name. And actually just literally just this morning, I was playing around with a new font, which is a little bit more, it's got a little bit more sort of, it's a little bit less structured than these, and I've used those in the wireframes actually. So there's one font missing from here that we used, but you can see that we're just starting to play around with laying the logo ideas into the original magazine mock-up that we had, and then I've kept the original assets in the same page. So this is all uploaded to the shared doc now, so everybody's got copies of this. And as I mentioned just before, we're just starting. So this is very early. We're literally just pushing this together this morning. Just some ideas of what the covers. So if you imagine a spread on a magazine, what would perhaps the left-hand page cover look like? Cover for the article versus the copy that would be written on the right. So these need to be influenced by what types of content we want to actually create, which I think at the moment, having gone through all this wireframe work, we probably want to start thinking about what types of articles we need and what types of recipes we need to fit a nice broad set of taxonomies to show off vocabulary. Okay.
Yep.
Started thinking about sitemap based on the content types. So one of the things that came through in the last call was the idea of really keeping this very, very lean and mean in terms of content types. I think it was stripped all the way back to, what was it? I think we got all the way back to just basic page, recipe, article. I have sneaked another one in, which is publication edition. So that's one to discuss. It may be required in order to make the layouts of these designs a bit more convincing. But also starting to think about what the structure of the navigation might be. If it's going to be reduced right down, how will that actually work? So just a very, very first early version of that. So also thinking about if we're going to have a list of recipes, which is going to live in a recipes section, likewise with featured articles, we'll get to that in a moment as well. What are we going to do with the terms? So how do we want those to play out in the recipe section? So I've also started a page just to actually lay out the just to lay out what the content types are. Just so we're keeping all of this in one place, because I'm able to just export this as one single PDF then, or individual files. So the content types obviously then feed into the wireframes. So this is some wireframe work that I was doing, which does not follow the original sketch. So the original sketch was this. So this was some work that we started a few weeks back, which is to actually think about how we lay out more content, perhaps relying on a carousel without relying on a carousel, for example, as the very first item. So how can we get more articles promoted to top on the front page? So you can see I've got this more flowing font for the logo here, which isn't represented at the moment on the name, brand, and colors page. I'll get back to that after the call. So you can see though we've stripped the navigation right the way back, and we've just got features, recipes, magazine, and then we're using the footer, which I've started to lay out as well. So down here, using the footer to actually present more on the, it's basically the use case, I suppose, for that basic page content type. What are we going to do with basic page? How do we want it to work for us? In terms of the wireframes, I suspect we'll end up with a few of these, because it'd be good to do a few different design directions. But I'd like it to be very modular. I think if we can keep effectively these elements as effectively layout styles that we can use repeatedly through different approaches to the design, then that will really speed things along, I think, at the design phase. But also, I think we need to understand just how much of the design is going to be in that theme, and how much of it is just going to come through layout of rich-looking content. Okay. So I could imagine, for example, this is a suggestion that we could have some kind of carousel which actually is width limited, but then teases the items. I don't know if you've seen this type of carousel. You see it on a few sites where basically you tease what's before and what's next, because it's effectively a looped carousel. But it'd be really useful for laying out one of the magazine spreads and promoting the magazine. And therefore, an interesting way to surface if we're going to the content, if we're going to have basically a publication edition content type. Okay. So are you okay with me just carry on stepping through these and just sort of presenting? Yeah, is that okay? I do think what we need to do next steps is probably turning this into some clickable versions. We might be able to use something like InVision app to do that. Just turn these visuals into clickable wireframes. We need to be starting to really nail down what we want to do with how articles work versus tagging versus recipes and listing those recipes. But I think this is a nice, simple, clean approach, which is basically for the front page, here's the latest X recipes, and we just surface the various other bits of content along with them. And then we have a block here that is obviously promoting the magazine itself. There was original conversation about the idea of what does subscription mean? Is this an opportunity for us to drive a user through to a form that could show off how we could be using the basic form features in Core? And this is one of the main things I think we need to discuss in this call, if we can at least start the conversation, is how do we want to handle categories? Because clearly they need to be categories that are spread across a broad range of topics, because that way we might be able to have less content created. I don't know if that makes sense, but if we keep the categories broad and repeat how they're used on a given article, then we could potentially win by not needing to just create lots and lots of content to fill these categories, but actually just design them really cleverly so that there's a good spread there, but you still have plenty of them surfaced up to the top level here. And I mentioned the idea of the footer delivering the sort of, the page type content. So first main section, features, is obviously listing featured articles. At the moment, proposing that the latest article shows up in lead hero form. So we could have a think about how we might design the lead image to be reused depending on where it's shown through different view modes. And then I've written here in the let me just size this up a bit because it's a bit small. Now it's huge and gone. 1 second. I just managed to. It's gone 1%. It's all right. Is it gone? I haven't had that before.
I think this is a live effect.
Live, yeah. Okay. We'll jump over into another doc in a minute if I need to. I've got it on a second copy. Did I manage to actually? Scroll? I think I managed to delete it. That's what I actually managed to do. I must have just caught delete. So I was sizing it up before I hit the wrong key. That's probably better for everybody. So try again. Filters. So at the moment, I'm dropping these filters into the articles, the featured articles page. I'm not sure. I'm not sure whether we want or need this here. Does it add too much complexity? Certainly, if we're using the example of existing magazine sites, they do have categorization across articles and recipes. So it's worth dropping this in and saying this is one for discussion. And you can see what we've got here is a very, very obvious listing of all the articles. So I am repeat using effectively a symbol here. So hence why these articles would be presumably written by different example authors. But for the sake of speed, it's a copy and paste job.
Yeah.
And we could do some nice things in terms of just design. It's not essential, but we could even feature perhaps another article down the bottom here in a larger form, just to tail off the page. And we've got this repeating pattern now that we could reuse across the site to give closure to the pages. And then if we drill into an individual article page, then we've got obviously this with articles, we need to think about how the content type works, but this is going to be a great opportunity to really play around with some really nice layout, really nice typography approach, and obviously showing how the CK editor is simple to use in order to lay out content that looks great but simple to edit. So obviously in this case we would probably have the lead image as a separate field, but it's also possible to embed images into the article easily. And then over here on the right, we can promote this current author, and we can obviously promote other articles. And again, that repeating pattern. And then you've got the recipes section. So this is where filters definitely come into play. So it's thinking about how do we want these to work? How many of them do we need? And this is also, it's just an idea at the moment, but we could use these top level terms because we might have terms below these or in a separate vocabulary where we can effectively have a view that splits these out. I'm not proposing that this is the layout here. That's why I've written less articles. It's more just for us to discuss here. But if we go side by side with these top level categories, then we obviously would have less articles on the page across these categories. So it really depends on how many articles we want to be writing. Sorry, I keep saying articles and I mean recipes. So I'm obviously looking at recipes here, but it's showing off this idea of Drupal grouping this content and how Views is able to handle that. And importantly, being able to then drill into that content as a listing in its own right. And then like the previous example with the featured articles, we can have a second feature if we want to, just something that sort of really just lifts the visual impact at the foot of the page there. And then this is lifted and shifted from the farmers market work we did. So you've probably recognized this if you remember those wireframes. So drilling into an individual recipe, it's thinking about what type of field structure we want, how content can easily be created on those pieces, on this content type, and then being able to really play around with how that's displayed on the page. So that it's a great looking page, easy to follow, and also has all of this relationship and reference content going on at the bottom. So obviously about the author of this recipe and other recipes by this author. And this is a larger format. I mentioned it in passing, so we've got 3 in a row here. Just a larger format recipe card, if you like. So it's probably beyond MVP, but certainly we could be playing around with view modes when we're on a different content type to surface content in a different way, depending on, if we want the images for the recipes to be far bigger, then that's an option we can go for. And then finally, this again was, I think this was in the version of the wireframes that probably hasn't been seen. So this was built a few weeks back, is just the idea of whether or not we're going to have user profiles. Because if we do, then we've got the opportunity to show how fields can be working against the user profile and surface some of that content here as well. So I guess you could summarize my week as very broad brush, really just sweeping across the whole kind of key areas that we need to be focusing on next in terms of divvying up the work. Yeah, I guess that's it. That's certainly everything I've got to show at the moment.
It looks pretty good. Would you like us to ask questions if we have any at this point? Do you think it would be useful, or?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Just open it up for discussion, because there's so much to discuss about, especially around MVP and what we actually need to be designing.
Yes. So do you want to open the go to the logo afterwards? After that, so can you open the front page wireframe?
Yeah.
I just had. So I think the first question I had was the subscription block. Like, what are we actually going to do with that? How are we going to make that work?
Implementation-wise, you mean, Larry?
Yes, like
is this a custom block or is this a node? Or?
Yeah, like I mean, what do we want it to do? Like, not actually like how are we going to make that block, but like
what would it link
if
to?
you click the like what is the if you click the subscribe button, what will happen?
Dus ik kan daar een suggestie voor doen. Ik vind het, voor mij hoeft het niet over de locatie.
So MVP would say link to the contact page, right, or something like that. Or maybe there's no contact form, but there would be a subscribe form.
Ja. Dus dan misschien.
Ja.
Ja, dat gaat om twee posts, hè? Dus ook niet veel.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if the
Also, this is a good example of where we could have sample content says, and this is where your demo ends. To actually make forms work in your site, you'd probably need X, Y, and Z, and look into A, B, and C.
Yeah. Fair point.
I kind of would be interested to see how that could work, because then I feel like we're balancing this demo versus tutorial thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
like it could have the aspect of the user. If we can lead them, how they what would be the next step if they would like to build the subscribe now but functionality. Yeah, it sounds like that could save us some time. What do you think about that, Keith?
Yeah, if I've understood correctly, this is similar to what I think we discussed a little bit, Larry, wasn't it, when we were doing the the user stories, that chat we had for the more global user stories, and the idea of there probably needing to be some level of just instructional text, effectively, instructional pages in this demo. And what would that look like, and how would it work?
Yeah, I think this is a good example of feature like that, where it would make sense. But then again, I don't know how much does it make sense if we only have one feature like that, like one place where we show that. Like, it would be nice that we could be a little bit more consistent on that.
Yeah, that's true. So this could be an example for a form. Do you also want to have an example of a view mode, or what a view is, etc.? Yeah.
I feel like maybe for the MVP, it might be even simpler that we don't do any of this kind of things. Like, we don't provide any of this type of materials. However, we could.
Yeah, I mean, it could be you don't have the button there at all, and we make sure the wording is we could change how the offer works, and do this through the content itself. Equally, maybe would it be strange, as you say, Roy? Is this where the demo ends? Would it be strange if that button didn't link anywhere? It's simply there, but it didn't link anywhere. Would that feel broken? That could feel broken, I guess.
Well, this is also the stuff that you want to feel, right?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Of course, I stumbled in late, but this is where I wonder if Laurie has access or talked with Larolan about the sandbox and what we need to just start prototyping, basically in code as soon as possible as well, right?
I have
Especially
access
for
to
hashing
that.
out the code. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I'd be interested in. I mean, this it'll be work, but we probably will be rebuilding the site 20 or 40 times. But it will be interesting to see, because it would probably also be quite difficult to define the MVP without actually seeing it and clicking it and seeing where the dead ends are, where things stop.
Yeah, so Roy, that's the bit you probably missed that I mentioned, that we could turn these wireframes into using something like InVision app into clickable wireframes. Yeah,
that makes sense. Yep.
Yeah, that would make sense, because that could help us fetch out some of the.
Okay, then at least we would keep track of those, right? So we make the list of dead ends, or what happens if, what happens here.
Yeah, because this is this one obvious one, but there could be more that are less obvious than this.
Yeah. Right, because there's no author detail page, or is there? No, probably not right now.
Yeah, there are no. However, I'm not sure if it's expected that there is. Like,
No, exactly. But
Yeah.
that could also be a hint in a way. Like, and if you would want to build a page that shows all the articles by this author,
oh yeah.
I think the idea with that blog it was to show, as Keith said, to show forums. So unless we are going to show forums, I don't really see that blog here. I mean, it's not useful. It's not giving us information. It's not giving us, I mean, if it just goes to a normal page, it's not useful to show anything. I mean, all the magazine websites probably will have this blog, but if we are not going to use it, I don't know. Why
Right.
should we keep?
you're saying that if we cannot come up with a actual form or demo of a form, we should not
Yeah.
do the subscription promo.
Exactly that.
Yeah, forms will probably be and stay the weak point in this initial version of the demo.
Yeah,
What-
forms for these purposes are kind of tricky. But yeah, go ahead, Keith.
Well, no, I was going to ask I can't remember what was in the user stories for forms. Actually, I've probably still got the tab open. Oh, no, I haven't.
I think I have it open.
Let me just check. User stories.
Fine.
I think I've got it. Here you go. Format
34.
34. Yeah, have a form and a block. That's still a problem though, isn't it? Unless that module wasn't there a module that was making its way towards core for that.
But it doesn't seem like it's an important feature.
Yeah.
Nope.
It's a one. So
Even the common forms also.
wouldn't have to
Hmm.
have that kind of a form.
Yeah, then we probably could keep that, but not going further. I mean, maybe not using it on the MVP and maybe developing it later.
Yeah.
So I guess the question is exactly that, isn't it? Is how important from a demo core capability, you know, the fact that you can just dive straight in and easily create a form, you know, how important is that?
Well, honestly, of course, it quickly becomes quite important because people want to create forms so that people can sign up for newsletters or subscribe, etc. Let's not solve it here. Of course, it's a big element in the current design. Maybe Keith, you can just verify how much of the design implodes when you remove that.
This here?
Yeah,
Not
too much, huh?
I don't think it's. I don't see it as a big part of the design. I think it's a big part
No,
of
exactly.
nothing more than sort of, you know, the synopsis, isn't it? Really, of what we're trying to do. You know, the scenario. Sorry. So yeah, I fixed it.
Yeah. So
Yep.
so the next question was
Oh, it's
was
back.
about the categories. So there's the categories list on the bottom.
There's this here. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
there's parent terms here.
So the one on top, that one I get. Like, so will that link to another page about cakes and baking?
I guess it goes to the same places as these more buttons.
Yeah.
I should stress this is me dropping. This one comes from the farmers market.
Yeah.
So I'm dropping things into the page here and just starting to think, right, what structure do we want to design? And therefore, will that structure end up meaning we just got lots of content creation problems that we're creating for ourselves versus can we actually, keep it very, very high level for now in terms of these top level terms? That means, we get to show off how easy it is to tag content, but actually, and how easy it is to show content under those terms. But actually, it doesn't mean now we've just turned the need to write 20 recipes into 100.
Yeah. So about the categories on the bottom of the page, how does that work?
I've got no idea. It's it's whether we want to go to that level of depth. I guess this could be in the same. This could be in the same sort of chop it out.
The first one would be category and baking, and then have subs. Or is this not? I imagined looking at it that this you have what is it at the top? And baking.
Yeah, top level categories up here, but it's obviously if we're going to have ingredients, you start getting a lot. You could have breakfast, lunch, dinner. It's just how far do we want to take this? If all we're trying to do is demo sorting content, filtering content.
Well, sorting
then,
and filtering, grouping, basically, right?
Yeah.
So that bottom block probably is not MVP.
Yeah. Okay. Also, the other problem with that block is that it will lead in very easily in this situation to create a lot of friction that while creating the default content recipes belong to any groups as possible. It would be possible, but I still feel like it would easily end up as adding more content. We would have to. Yeah, I really like the lift ups you've created here. The Japanese street food on the bottom, and then on the top the other one. Yeah, I like that one. This one looks nice and sleek. Like it's a good idea.
I agree.
I'm just maybe we can use the promote to top checkbox that we have on nodes for that or something like that.
Certainly, it's promote to front, isn't it? The checkbox. I must admit, it was a sort of more layout and design-led thinking rather than necessarily me worrying about who's going to build it. That's what we do, right? We design things and then don't worry about the rest.
Yes, but where does it come from?
Yeah. The first one's probably easy. Correct me if I'm wrong. It's the first. It's probably the latest recipe.
It could be.
Yeah. So then, yes, I guess if that's the latest recipe, then you could potentially have the one down here as promoted to front, which doesn't feel. I suppose it's still front of this section. But would there be an expectation, therefore, that it would be up here?
And
There's
so the
also.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just thinking that there's also use cases where this is explicitly not a node, but a custom block. because this is just that big image that we want to link to. Well, in that case, it would probably not be a specific recipe, but just the bottom one here, Japanese street food, which is like is basically a banner for a category listing, probably, right? For a taxonomy listing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was just about to mentioning about the same, that if we automatically list every recipe, that is the newest one, then we need the big image on every recipe that fits the hero image. Need that on the recipe page as well?
Sorry, Larry, go to the recipe page here.
Does it have the hero image? No, it does not. In this.
Well, I was imagining it would be this one, but just presented in a different. I mean, we shouldn't lean too heavily on the ratio that I've illustrated here to imply how it's presented. Absolutely, we've probably all have plenty of experience of battling with the challenge that is the full viewport responsive hero image that just keeps chopping people's heads off. Because the composition of the image just simply doesn't want to work with the middle part of the image, which is obviously a safer area to go for. But we're under a more, I guess we can argue we're under a more staged environment here, aren't we? You know, we're setting this up for success from the start, and there are ways and means to make the height, I guess, a bit more responsive if we want to maintain some level of aspect ratio. Another approach is that it's done by design. You know, it doesn't have to be an image that goes full bleed. It could be that we design a really lovely, just a really nice block that looks really good with that teaser copy and title in there. And the image sits far more in its comfortable ratio to the right, you know, so your hero still feels, you know, the hero banner area still feels well structured, well designed, but it doesn't rely on an image that's going to infinitely stretch, if that's the concern.
Yeah, so I feel like that would be easier for the implementation. I'm just like, so how much does it bring value that it would be the latest compared to having a block?
Are you referring to this one at the top, or
yes, for both?
For both.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I mean, I was imagining typically you would probably want. Yeah, it's a good question because it
because that could be also seasonal, like that you want to have, like let's say if it's a Christmas time that you want to have some Christmas cookies or something like that on the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, in that sense, it could now be the one that's about cakes and baking. I imagine that the cakes, baking, seasonal, word recipes, vegetarian ingredients, the top level categories, suppose that those weren't there. And cakes and baking, those 4 recipes would be right below the big hero image that is also about cakes and baking as a thing, as the seasonal topic or as this month's topic. Then I can imagine that this hero block at the top would not explicitly not be a node, but a dressed up banner that probably has the same link as the more link for cakes and baking, or an article.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah.
But it's a different story, right? It's a different structure for the magazine. Does this highlight a theme, or does a topic, or does it highlight a single specific recipe?
I guess it's for MVP to decide.
True.
It's good. I'm thinking what a good idea that actually could be. It just begs the question. So when you're on a recipe, if we want recipes, if we just dive forward a second and sort of approach this the other way around. So let's say we're tagging recipes here and they became links, then presumably they would use whatever interface we're using here to jump straight into a specific tag listing. So I've obviously not visualized that. Then you could just use tags to do that, headings here, do the grouping, which means this is not quite so necessary because obviously there is repetition based on this sketch. So yeah, it's not an all bad idea, Roy. Is something more. Lose the filter.
Yeah, I like that. Yep. Because then we can make it. The design is more simple.
Mm-hmm.
The implementation is more simple, and
I remember. I was thinking in terms of whether or not you wanted to have show off fields on taxonomy terms. That's where that comes from. So obviously you could have an image field, presumably on a taxonomy term, and that was how that was going to work. That's where that feature comes from. But as I said, it's copied from weeks ago before MVP got clearly, set as being let's keep this lean.
Yeah, I'm translating it as like I did because I pasted a link in the chat, and that site is a Drupal 8 site we built last year, and on the homepage there's a big hero image. And we were thinking, should this be a node which has a extra special hero image, but then all nodes that could potentially be shown there would need those extra big hero images. Instead, we made this welcome block with the two people in front of the tree, a custom block where they could swap out that image anytime they needed to. And in the meantime, they never did.
That sounded fair, Roy.
Yeah.
All lead images have to be live for at least 3 years before they get changed, right?
Yes. But yeah, I remember discussing with the site builder where she said, well, this puts enormous strain on individual nodes if they all have to be able to fulfill this use case. Why not decouple it from the actual node and just make this a block where people can upload the big image and write their text and provide the link where it should lead to.
Yeah.
That's how I interpreted this block, and that's why this is an illustration of that.
Yep.
Yeah, it has a lot of sense.
That's good.
Can you go back to the wireframes then?
Yep.
Then we have still the features wireframe. Can you go on that one? Any further comments on that? Very silent.
Sorry.
I don't think there is.
Just so there's no confusion, because I see Gabor joined us, which is he possibly joined after we'd done that edit. So we are saying the same here, correct? We don't need this filters. I even put here whether we even really need it as a separate set of terms. Probably not required. Keeps it simpler. So patterns, we're setting up patterns.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Should we do the same here as well? That the delete.
Sorry, here.
So it has to specifically create it. can be modified. But this,
I think this is
Yeah.
a use case where that really does apply potentially, doesn't it? Because it's promoting what would ordinarily be a richer article. So
yeah,
you could almost imagine producing an exact layout for web of an article's cover. I'll change all the text later. That text becomes irrelevant.
yeah.
Do we want teasers on these?
So there's, if we could make one article a little bit larger than it is right now, it would mean that we need less content that we have right now on this design. So let's say right now we need 12 pieces of content.
Mhm.
But if we would design so that one item is larger, like we show more content on this list of one item,
Yep.
we could reduce the amount of articles we have to produce.
Yep.
Yeah, agree.
So I think that right now it's very compact, and this would go with. I could likely go on with the client, but on this project, because we are lazy and we don't want to produce too much content, it's kind of a different.
Okay. Easy peasy.
Fixed.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've got to work out how Sketch. I did find this the other day. I think you can scale the text as well, but actually, that's probably correct that it shouldn't because of font sizing.
Yeah, I was
font sizing. Yeah,
surprised to see it didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's correct because we want
Hasn't
font
included,
sizing
yeah.
to follow. So
Oh, it works really nicely, actually.
there are
Like,
times when you want it to do that. That's what I was thinking, but that's not one of them.
yeah, something like that works fine.
So yeah, it's just teasers. A lot of food magazine websites certainly do have them. Some don't. Do we want to show off
What's the
Drupal's
teaser here?
teaser?
As in
Uh,
a bit of body copy.
yeah, just as in teaser text that effectively sits in.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't have a preference on this
Mhm.
to decide or another. So if anyone else has,
For me, it's okay. For now, I don't see anything else.
yeah, I don't have a. Do you have preference of the having the body text or the teaser text there?
So is that to me?
Anyone in
What we could maybe consider is this the alternative title? Is this the teaser title? That is not the same as the one that would show up in the full view, but the teaser title being a bit longer, a super fresh summer salad for when you have nothing in the cupboard or in the fridge, where the article title would be more to the point about what the actual recipe is.
Yeah.
Agree.
But no, I wouldn't think a separate teaser would be useful. I think you probably have teasers in when we show articles listing. Oh, this is
No,
an article.
yeah, I was
sorry.
gonna say,
And now I was
yeah.
now I was thinking these were recipes.
Yeah, no, that's. Yeah, I noticed that with the certainly the sites I was looking across, they either blanket didn't have them or they did have them everywhere. So
Yeah, that's because there's WordPress sites. I don't know. Well, okay. Continuing with the that I thought these were recipes. does the recipe overview? Oh, that's your grouped by listing, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was imagining. I did think about what you're saying there, Roy. So I think it was on the farmers market wireframes. We did actually have a sort of a type label tucked in for some of the promoted items, but on this one I was thinking, the titles and probably, yeah, I mean, I must admit, copy and paste is not necessarily our friend here. We might be thinking about these articles might look, these promoted cards might look slightly different between the two anyway, but certainly the titles for articles are probably going to be more broad than how to cook an egg.
Yeah, or this article listing, maybe it doesn't have to be a grid and could be a simpler teaser list.
Yep. So that was another thing that went through my mind, is whether we should follow the same pattern that we set up on the home page example here on the recipes page, which then means articles would follow the perhaps follow this pattern. Does that make sense?
I think that would make sense for also the reason that it's a little bit larger component, more data is displayed there. So it's also yet reducing the amount of content we have to create.
Yeah, I think it's recipes where we probably do need more, perhaps, just to get it convincing. I've not had time yet to look into the copyright thing, but they could therefore also be quite easy to produce. So, because obviously this is designed to be vertical. So
by the way, we are just excuse me, we are over time. So if you want to leave, feel free to go. No need. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry for arriving late. I've had another thing, and this looks really good.
Yeah.
So far, everything looks good.
Great.
Yeah. Thanks for keeping up the work.
So if you have a few minutes time, I still have a few more questions.
Oh yeah. No, I'm fine.
Yeah.
See you later, or see you on Slack.
Yeah. See you on Slack.
Thank you.
So I just had a question. What is the follow link in the header?
Oh, we were just I was just thinking it would be nice to show how you might handle, an example, kind of hover over and see follow links, social media links.
So where are we going to link those?
Well,
are we going to create fake
Drupal.
We would link to the social media integration module.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not too bad, actually.
On my Twitter.
Yes. Or your Twitter, Larry.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, did we have anything about the social media links?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's certainly, again, it's a copy and paste thing. I don't know if you recall the visuals where that was popping in. So by no means essential.
Yeah, so maybe we could just remove that. I think it would still look fine if we just leave the login.
Yeah, absolutely.
So about the search, is there some interaction on the search, or is it just a link to the search page?
Well, I was imagining that this would be the search area here. So it would be design would allow us to do this in an appropriate way. If we want to show a button the whole time, we can design that in.
Okay.
It's purely just to say search could be right here.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Can you go to the Meet team wireframe? That one I think we didn't discuss yet.
Yeah, I've got this sneaky suspicion this could creep beyond MVP, but it was back to a conversation that I had with Kevin, I think it was, about the idea that we would use show off how you can obviously fill up the user account, and therefore present more information here. And obviously that is another example of reference, as if we haven't got enough already. So certainly this page might feel a bit beyond MVP.
Yeah, I would say from my point of view, this doesn't have to be on MVP. How do you feel, Roy?
Sorry, what's the question?
Do you feel about the Meet the Team page has to be on MVP?
Not sure, because probably not, because these are also individual accounts or nodes then again. Or, I mean, this is a list of stuff. It's 8 more items of stuff to create.
Yeah.
Show this page.
And it's like, so the reason why I'm creeping on the scope so much is that, so if I would build this for myself, it would probably be like 1 hour or 2 hours to build it. But when you do it for Drupal core, it's like that times 100.
Right. Okay.
So you probably understand that like every smallest thing becomes usually like way larger. So it's like, unless there's a good reason for having something, usually it's a better idea to leave it out.
That's fine, because it's handy to know, because it's exactly what you just described there. We would build this as a view mode using a standard card, one card used many times over. And once you've built the view, it just all works. So, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
So please keep this design. Like, I feel like this could be after MVP something that we want to build.
Yeah.
But for MVP, this is probably not in the scope.
Yeah. I have a backup of the version.
Okay.
That's got more in it than this anyway, so that's fine.
That's pretty much what I had in my mind. Good work on this. This looks really good, to be honest.
Yeah, to be honest, this looks quite good. Yes. If I'm be really honest, then yes.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of feedback and a lot of questions, but my overall feeling is that this looks very good. So,
it does.
I think it's just going to be interesting to see how I do think we need to discuss more in the next meeting how we handle the difference between demo and tutorial, because I think there is definitely middle ground there that it would be nice to hit, and I could well imagine that being beyond MVP, because it certainly adds a lot more work. But it would be nice if it was a follow-up phase that we could do. Good time. Sorry, there's obviously a party going on next door.
Well, even just now looking at the footer, even a third link in the About Us that says, and where do we take it from here, or whatever. Just about this demo website, and we could have a specific page that outlines next steps, whatever. But yes, you're right.
Are you referring to this one here?
No, maybe a third one below About Us. Oh yeah, or the footer, of course.
Yeah, that's what I was meaning with this. Use this post footer space for demo related links. Yeah,
that sounds interesting idea. Yes. So just my last thing today, and after that I think we can stop the call, is about the logos. Would you be comfortable of maybe posting those, the overview on the Slack, and maybe we could just give feedback and ideas about that on the Slack?
Let's not start with the logos. Let's not start with the logos.
They need I think to present logos well, you certainly need to give them some context as well, especially things.
Yeah.
Where are we? but they are in here. I mean, everything is split up. So this is this shared doc that you created, Larry.
Yeah.
I created a folder called wireframes. Everything is in there.
Yeah. So then my next idea and question is how do we deal with mobile views, mobile layout?
Wow, it's an implementation detail. It would just work.
It just works, right? I think
Yeah.
there's a
So
plugin.
we don't
I
have to
think there's a
do
plugin.
anything.
Yeah.
To me, it would be sorry. There's the responsive stuff. I was thinking about whether or not to show the logo, for example. I think still the most interesting bit to get feedback on is something like a sitemap and the corresponding content model, so that we can identify, and then eventually a list of content types, view modes, views, and references as like the 4 building blocks that we're features or Drupal building blocks that we're putting to work in this demo.
Yeah, I mean, Larry, would that would be a really good one for someone definitely other than me, because I'll definitely get it wrong or go too far. Yeah, but something that just really lays it out.
Because then a Dries or a product manager could say, "Where's the forms?" or "Where's the feature X?"
So what you're planning is creating a list of the features that we include currently on the designs, or what was exactly that you were processing?
What exactly, I don't know. I'm of course always speaking in vagaries. But a sitemap and the underlying content model,
yeah,
from which you can conclude that we need these view modes, these references, would give a scope, an indication of scope as far as the Drupal things we're showing off.
Yeah. So
it's
I
that
would like,
or
so
working demo.
So we have the content model plan started out. So I would like to update that, and it would be great if we could somehow visualize that a little bit, probably. And then we could probably ask feedback of that.
So are you asking me, Larry, to do more on this? Because I don't mind doing that.
No, I think I could do it myself. I'm
okay,
just
grand.
thinking,
I'm happy to help you here as well.
Yeah, so then we have the sitemap, which you've created.
Oh, well, yeah. A very hurried first stab.
And now I'm actually dropping from the call. We'll continue. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you, Roy.
Hey.
See you soon.
Okay, so let's just can you just post the files for the sitemap and maybe make the changes that we wanted to do today? And then we can quickly do this on Slack. Yeah, it's in the drive, but maybe you could just like post and ask. I don't know. Maybe I will just post something about the sitemap and this thing this weekend once I've done some work related to the content model.
Oh, sorry, I'm with you. Yeah. Well, if you wanted to do another get together to get some help with that, I can make myself available.
I could probably just work this weekend and ask feedback on Slack. I think that would be fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think there is a need for call. Yeah, I've been super busy during the last week. Finally got everything sorted out related to apartment.
Hey.
And now I'm in Finland. So it's been a very busy week.
Sure.
But this weekend is good because it's a long weekend, so I will have plenty of time to do things, which is great.
Yeah.
I will send some things on Slack once I've worked on something. But besides that, I don't feel like there's a need for another. Like if I feel like there's a need for another call, I will just ping you on Slack.
No problem.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you very